All right, everybody, if you have not seen this before, you are in for a treat. This is the Confederate Memorial Hall, more than 130 years old. It's the oldest museum of its type anywhere around. And here we're going to start outside with the Lady Slocum. This is a cannon barrel that was recovered outside a Spanish fort. Make sure you watch our Spanish fort video to learn a little bit more about that. And here we go, we're coming in. Wait till you see this. Okay, this is Confederate Memorial Hall. Okay, and in this space there is a lot more than you think, trust me. So I won't even go into detail, but we have Confederate uniforms galore. I mean, and some people you know. Look at this cool portrait of Chatham Roberdeau Wheat. You've heard of him. There's a Louisiana focus here. Look at these wicked blades, and you can see some of his items over there as well. If you turn around, you're going to end up seeing plenty of the brass that you see in old Civil War photographs and that so many soldiers would wear during the Civil War. Here we actually have a case dedicated to the Louisiana Tigers. You can see how some of them look during the time, and man, not only do you have a more standard, I think, Bowie knife, I'm sure somebody's going to tell me I'm wrong, but look at this absolutely wicked looking blade for this ferocious unit that you may have heard about. Here, one of their multiple logs that they have with ordnance still in them. This one from the Battle of Chickamauga. I know there's one more of those as well. Here we just have uniform after uniform. This case to the Army of Northern Virginia over there. Now, while we're going through, they're also really good for the didactic teaching moments, so you can learn about artillery while you're here. Again, I'm not trying to give it all away. I think you should come here. And above here, I haven't even shown you portraits and flags galore as well. Now, as we continue walking on through here, you're going to see yet another one of these Chickamauga logs. Looks like we have some shrapnel from what looks like a shell in that case, and looks like a complete shell from what I can tell. Some focus on the naval actions over here. If I may, while we're here, I guess it's my video, I can do whatever I'd like. The only confirmed gun used in the 1815 Battle of New Orleans. And it looks like it's in just beautiful shape. And some more of the naval focus before we get over toward the Battle of Franklin case, and you'll see some things here that you usually don't see. Not only a Confederate uniform, but some of the beautiful rank boards or insignia that you might not get to see in such good shape, as well as a photo I'll bet you haven't seen showing the office at the Franklin battlefield. Just beautiful. Of course, happy to see that they're using an American Battlefield Trust map. Now we're going to come back to this room in a second, but let me walk through this one just to show you that here's where they have a more educational section. This is a Confederate Memorial Hall, but you're going to start to see more Union items up here as they teach, you know, a lot of the school groups that come here about the Civil War in general, the money they spent, the things they wore, the things they ate and whatnot. Here we have a very nice Mississippi blanket in there, and you can see, of course, some of the armaments, some of the ways they kept themselves occupied. Of course, any good military museum needs lots of swords, especially if you're talking 19th century. So I will encourage you to come here and check this out, as well as you medical folk. Everybody likes seeing the surgeon's kit, but they have so much more than that. Some of the medicines and other things like that on display. Cruising through more of it. Swords, guns, stirrups, pistols, and everything that you might want here. And a nice collection of headgear, including very cool straw hat. And all these, I believe, are identified, or all but one are identified. Some seeing better days. Are they in any better shape than my hats? Let's see. I think I'm still doing pretty well. Let's go back out through the gift shop, which every museum needs as well, out to this main section here, because now we're gonna, you know, here's where I'm not necessarily going in order, where you start to see where, you know, they're talking about secession, how all this started in the meantime, and then you will see an extensive treatment of the Washington Artillery, the famed unit Washington Artillery. Trying not to get in the way of anybody here. We're going to see one coat which is perfectly inscribed on the inside to the soldier who actually wore it. You might be able to see it there beneath the lights, as well as one who did not fare so well in battle with an arm actually blown off. And you can come and check out more of the Washington artillery here. Now, one thing I like here too is these very, you see a lot of mannequins of varying quality at museums, but man, look at some of these. If they look good to you, they probably should. They were actually made by Madame Tussauds. So you see them. This was for the New Orleans Wax Museum in the 1960s, and when they made these, there was a lot more. This is what remains. They actually put them on a TWA flight in first class and gave these guys their own seats, which is a pretty interesting publicity stunt. And I think it's pretty cool. And I believe the uniforms once belonged to our good friend Joe over at Franklin. Continuing along a little bit further here, we have more Washington artillery before moving on to other things. And again, I can't even remotely cover it all because it's just too much here. We of course have lots of edged weapons, as well you should. And I think this is really cool that they have an interesting focus on Jefferson Davis, who was buried in New Orleans for a little while, of course, for a few years. So here's some items belonging to Winnie Davis. There is more in storage. They have, about half or 60% of their collection out on display. No museums have everything out as far as I know. Here's just a great example of a Confederate coat, just in beautiful shape. And it's the type of thing you start to see here. You see a housewife there, a sewing kit made by a soldier's mom that said it was for my dear angel boy, or something to that effect. As we come up here, we start to see a lot more of things associated. There's things associated with Jefferson Davis. This is not his kid's cradle, but his cradle used as a young boy. So Jefferson Davis is there. You can see some of the religious influence. You see Beauvoir, his house, at least for a time, and you can see portraits, even if not that well from here, of him and Winnie as well. Over here we have a couple of identified, or 3 identified soldiers' coats. Here's General Gardner of Port Hudson fame. Here's Braxton Bragg's coat and other items as well. Bragg has some space next to him over there. That's because the Confederate Museum, Confederate Memorial Hall was kind enough to take this out of the case for us to do another video shoot. You might see some of that. Here is the Beauregard spot, but for now I think General Bragg is happy to have a little bit more arm space there. And here we have it, General Adams as well, wounded during the Civil War. You can see this coat, saw some action of not only battle, but also over time. Now, we are gonna, I hope I can pop down to some of the storage and show you a little bit more stuff, but for now we're gonna break here with a piano that was actually being played during, I think it's the Battle of Jackson, Mississippi, as I remember, and I don't play the piano, but let's just end it for now on this note. As we walk by, casually, the secession flag of Louisiana that flew over the State House, I wanna thank the Confederate Memorial Hall for breaking this out just for the American Battlefield Trust. It looks cool as it is. Wait till you see what it is. So first of all, just starting with Charles Combs here, 8th Louisiana. He would have charged East Cemetery Hill at Gettysburg. I'm sorry, and he was killed there actually. Sorry if I can't quite get the perfect picture here. You see the headgear of Louisiana Tiger here, and you see some of his personal items. A very interesting Southern Confederate canteen there, and his sort of valise, I suppose. But man, what you're looking at here with epaulets, a smoking cap, a very cool cap that was worn at an important time, because these are the items of Pierre Gustave Toutant Beauregard. I mentioned that his uniform was not behind glass, and there's something about coming up close, getting in close with some of these artifacts here to allow us to see them here. You can see one of his swords here. Not sure how often, if he ever drew it in battle. He wasn't right up front most of the time. You can see his hat. I'll show you some B-roll actually of the inside. The label's still in it. His pants, a second smoking cap as well. And although these aren't his, man, how often do you see multiple Lamat revolvers right here, as well as this incredible flag they broke out for us for the 22nd Louisiana. See our Spanish Fort video to learn a little bit about some of the actions they were in. And man, they were most proud, it appears, of Vicksburg, where they would see some incredible service. The flag not too large and not in a perfect state of preservation. Man, we are lucky to still have it. Every time I come down here, it's a new treat. Let's see what they've pulled out for us now. So I confess I took a quick look at some of this. Let's just start. You know, this is tight in here because they have a lot of really interesting stuff. So this is the hat. You can see it would probably fit my head. It's a very small hat that belonged to a Mississippi soldier. The records show that he had been wounded by the time he was 15. You can see right here just a drawer that I'm only giving you a little tease of some other edged weapons. Here you can see some various Southern canteens. Look, you can see some writing identification, some wear and tear, and of course some spurs here. This is very interesting. You might think that these are swords just missing the hilts, but these are in fact were never manufactured into swords. These are blades that were made and found together in a house and never actually made into swords themselves. Now here we have a couple of uniforms they broke out for us. This one, I'm going to let your imagination go because we don't know. I mean, you see that the arms are missing. This one looks to have been cut. This one looks a little bit more ragged. How they got that way, we'll let you, kind of decide on that. You can see it's not for the largest dude in the world. Very interesting. And here is a Missouri officer's coat. Pretty nice state. Definitely. Another coat in less of a nice state that some of the uniform people, I know you'll have something to say about this, do you really disagree on this? This is an early war militia coat or a late war homemade coat? If I was a betting man, I'd say the latter, based on what I'm seeing here, but I am no uniform expert by any means. What I want to end on here is this. Large. This is not for 1 or 2 or 5 or 10 people. A large teapot that is said to have been used by General John Bell Hood. Let's see. I'm going to give it, the full history. You better give it the smell test. Let's see what I got here. Oh, it does not smell like tea. So my thanks to the Confederate Memorial Hall for having us, for breaking out so much incredible stuff, and for all they do.